You stole my Rolex. Get away from my daughter immediately." In the midst of the crowd, a sharp scream pierced the air as cutting as a knife. Anne's mother, Linda, stood there, her eyes filled with tears, her face flushed with fury, pointing directly at me. I couldn't believe my ears. The Rolex? I looked down at my hands, and there was nothing but my ordinary suit and my heart pounding in my chest. But she was saying those words. That day, my wedding to Anne was supposed to be a beautiful day. The entire hall was glowing with dazzling lights. The music was soft and soothing. Everyone around was smiling, blessing the happy couple. I looked at Anne, my heart overflowing with joy, knowing that I could finally call her my wife. But everything suddenly collapsed in one moment. The entire hall fell silent. The air became suffocating, heavy like a stone pressing down on me. All eyes were on me. I felt like an animal being hunted, laid bare before everyone to face their condemnation. At that moment, I didn't know what to do. I was just a poor coffee shop worker. How could I possibly own a Rolex? But what hurt me more than anything was that I was standing there, being humiliated on the happiest day of my life, just because my love for Anne wasn't enough for them to accept me. Before I could even process the shock, I felt a chill run down my spine when Victor, Anne's father, stepped out from the crowd. He didn't say anything, just held a baseball bat in his hands, swinging it like a hunter spotting its prey. His gaze was sharp, full of contempt as he stared at me. "You've dishonored this family. You don't deserve her," he yelled, his voice filled with hatred. Before I could understand what was happening, he swung the bat at me. At that moment, I barely managed to turn away to avoid the blow, but I couldn't protect Anne. A painful cry rang out, and then Anne collapsed to the ground. She said nothing, just a choked gasp, then lost consciousness. My eyes saw Anne lying there, motionless, and my heart shattered. I rushed to her side, but I couldn't do anything except feel the coldness of the love I had given her. The truth was too cruel. She had been hurt because of me, because of the love I had given her. The price I had to pay was more painful than anything I could imagine. And in that moment, I knew our lives would never be the same again. Anne was a beautiful, intelligent, and successful woman, the pride of her family. Born into a wealthy family, where money and power dominated every decision, Anne had never had to worry about material things. She had everything: designer clothes, lavish vacations, and a life surrounded by glamour. But there was one thing I knew for sure that she could never buy with money: true love. When Anne loved me, a regular man with no wealth, no fame, nothing but a sincere heart and a yearning to be loved, I knew that wasn't easy for her. She could have everything, but I had nothing except my love for her. Her family had never accepted our relationship. They always saw me as unworthy, just a poor coffee shop worker. They thought I would exploit Anne to change my life. I saw the disdain in her mother's eyes, Linda, when she first looked at me. She didn't see me as a person, but as a poor, unworthy man with no future. Anne's mother was someone who valued material wealth above all else. She had spent her life chasing power and fame. I understood that she couldn't bear the idea of her daughter loving someone beneath her. Her mother always tried to control everything in the family, and I was just a trivial part of the perfect picture she was trying to paint for Anne. And then Linda devised a ruthless plan. She hired someone to frame me. They planted the Rolex in my jacket pocket, hoping to disgrace me on the most important day of my life. Anne's mother thought that if she could embarrass me in front of everyone, Anne would be forced to leave me. And then the family would be able to regain control of her life. On our wedding day, everything seemed perfect, but her family had already prepared a plan to ruin everything. Anne's mother, standing in the middle of the crowd, screamed, accusing me of stealing her Rolex. And like a trap already set, Anne's father, Victor, stepped out and attacked me. He didn't just torment me with words, he swung a baseball bat at me and struck his daughter, causing Anne to fall to the ground unconscious. But they didn't realize that life couldn't be so easily manipulated. They didn't know that I wasn't just a poor coffee shop worker. I am a CEO, a successful man who chose to live this simple life not because I lacked anything, but because I wanted to find true love unaffected by materialism. I had prepared for this situation. Before the wedding, I had gathered all the evidence of Anne's family's plot. The conversation between her mother and the person she had hired to frame me was recorded. I didn't just have evidence, I had power in my hands. After Anne was hospitalized due to the assault, I handed everything over to the police. And so, Anne's family, those who thought they could control their daughter's life, had to face justice. Her parents and her sister were arrested for conspiracy to assault, falsifying evidence, and attacking. Everything they had done to sabotage our love was now exposed. They never thought I would stand up to protect Anne, and more than that, I would not let her suffer again. But the truth was not as they had imagined. Anne's family thought I was just a poor coffee shop worker with nothing but an old suit and a simple view of life. They didn't know that behind that exterior, I was not an ordinary man. I was not the person they thought I was. Before meeting Anne, I had already been successful. I was the CEO of a well-known technology company, and I had built a strong career. But I chose to stay anonymous. I didn't want Anne to love me for my money, status, or success. I wanted her to love me for who I am, for my heart. I wanted our love to be built on something real, not on what I had or didn't have. However, I also understood that her family would never accept me. Anne's mother, Linda, was someone who valued material wealth and fame. I had noticed the disdain in her eyes from the first time she met me. She had a very clear idea of what she wanted, and I, a man with no wealth, no family background, could never enter her vision. But I loved Anne, and I knew she loved me, and I would do anything to protect that love. Before the wedding, I began to realize that Anne's family was not as simple as I had thought. They not only wanted to control her life, but were also constantly trying to get rid of me. Her mother, Linda, always found ways to interfere with every decision Anne made. She never agreed with our relationship, and I knew that if I wasn't prepared, her family would try to sabotage our wedding. Throughout this time, I kept a silent attitude, but in reality, I had been preparing for every situation. When I noticed Anne's family had begun to plan my downfall, I began gathering information. I didn't tell Anne because I didn't want to worry her, but I could feel the danger from her family. I recorded a conversation between Anne's mother and a person she had hired to set me up. I clearly heard in the recording Anne's mother talking about the plan to humiliate me at the wedding. She had hired someone to hide the Rolex in my jacket pocket. I clearly heard her say, "We will embarrass him at the wedding, make Anne cancel this wedding. She can't marry someone like him." Those words cut through my heart. Anne's mother was willing to do anything to tear me and Anne apart to regain control over her life. When I heard those words, I knew I had to act. I couldn't let them hurt Anne again, couldn't let her family continue controlling her in such a cruel way. I had recorded the conversation and kept everything carefully. I didn't just have the recording, but also other important information that I knew would serve as irrefutable evidence when the time came. On our wedding day, when everything seemed perfect, Anne's family executed their plan. They set a trap for me, and when Anne's mother accused me of stealing the Rolex, I knew it was all beyond saving. But I had prepared for this situation. I wasn't just an ordinary man. I had all the evidence I needed to protect myself and Anne. After Anne was beaten and hospitalized, I didn't hesitate for a second. The feeling was indescribable when I walked into the police station and presented the evidence I had gathered. I didn't need to be afraid anymore. I knew that once the truth was exposed, everything would be resolved. I clearly remember the look on the police officer's face when he listened to the recording. "Are you sure her family did this?" he asked. I simply nodded. "Yes, I have all the evidence. I don't want to beat them. I just want Anne to live freely, no longer controlled and manipulated." The next day, Anne's family was arrested. Her mother, her father, and even her sister were charged with conspiracy to assault, falsifying evidence, and attacking. The moment I received the news was strange. I didn't feel happy. I just felt a sense of peace. I had protected Anne. That was the most important thing. When Anne woke up, she looked at me with eyes full of gratitude and concern. "Danny, did you do all of this for me?" she asked weakly. I held her hand tightly, looked into her eyes, and said, "I did everything, Anne. But I didn't do it for myself. I did it for you, for us. I will never let them hurt you again. I just want you to live a happy, free life without anyone interfering." She was silent for a moment, then sighed, her eyes full of tears. "I don't know what to say to thank you." "I love you, Danny. I really love you." I smiled, gently patting her hand, and softly replied, "I love you, Anne, and I will always protect you." And that was when I knew, no matter how many challenges life threw my way, I would always stand by her. Anytime, anywhere. The trial was public, and Anne's family's reputation quickly crumbled. The people in town, the friends of her family, were all stunned when they learned the truth about her family, about the cruelty they had caused. No one could have imagined that a wealthy and powerful family could do such disgraceful things. Anne's mother, Linda, was accused of conspiring to frame me, while her father, Victor, was charged with assaulting me and Anne. Anne's sister was also brought into investigation for her involvement in the family's dirty schemes. They no longer held the perfect image they had worked their whole lives to build. All the lies, all the plots, and the contempt they had shown me and Anne were now exposed to the light. Standing in the courtroom, I could feel the gazes of everyone. They looked at me not with pity, but with respect. The rumors from before had been wiped away, and I was no longer the poor coffee shop worker that Anne's family had once looked down upon. I was the one who stood firm, protecting my love, and that was something everyone had to acknowledge. Throughout the trial, I had no intention of asking for any compensation. The only thing I cared about was Anne, as long as she was free, no longer living under her family's control. I didn't need money, I didn't need power, I just wanted our love to be protected. When it was my turn to speak in court, I looked into Anne's eyes. She sat there, her eyes full of worry and gratitude. She didn't have to say anything. Her gaze alone was enough for me to know I was doing the right thing. I love her for who she is, I began, my voice strong and resolute. My love for Anne isn't because of money or fame. I love her for who she is, for her heart. I won't let her suffer because of her family. They've hurt her enough, and I won't let that continue. The courtroom fell silent, but I knew my words had reached everyone's hearts. I wasn't saying this to be arrogant or to seek victory in front of them. I just wanted Anne to know that I would always stand by her, not only in happy times, but also in difficult moments. "Anne, I love you," I continued, my gaze never leaving hers. "I will never let anyone hurt you again. Everything I do is for you, for us. I will protect you no matter what happens." Anne looked at me, her eyes lighting up, filled with emotion. She didn't say anything, just gently took my hand. And in that moment, I felt everything we had been through together, from hardships to challenges, and I knew that we would never have to face them alone again. The trial ended, and Anne's family was charged according to the law. But I didn't feel joy or triumph. For me, this wasn't a victory. This was a turning point, the moment for us to start anew, for Anne to live a life of freedom, no longer constrained by the people who tried to destroy her. I looked at Anne once more, her gaze full of appreciation and gratitude. She walked up to me, gripping my hand tightly like a promise. "Thank you," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for protecting me, for always being by my side, no matter what my family did." "Our love doesn't need anyone's approval," I said, smiling as I looked into her eyes. "We will build our life together, starting today." And that was when I knew that no matter how many challenges, how many barriers, true love would always prevail. After the trial, everything seemed to change. The barriers Anne's family had set, the ghosts of the past, were now erased. We no longer had to live in the shadow of her family, no longer had to worry about their interference and the prejudices they imposed on us. It was just us with our real friends, the ones who had always supported us, not for money or fame, but because of the true love we shared. Anne no longer had to fear what her family would do to tear us apart. She had been freed from the shackles of control, and now she could love me without looking back. We decided to start fresh, as free people, not bound by anyone. We held a simple wedding, a ceremony with only our close friends, those we knew would stand by us, love us, and support us for who we truly are, not for any other reason. There was no involvement from Anne's family, those who had betrayed us, who had tried to destroy our love. That day, everything was simple yet meaningful. I looked into Anne's eyes, and in them, I saw peace. She no longer had to worry about anyone else's interference. We were free to love each other, not for what we had, but for who we are. After the wedding, we enjoyed our honeymoon in Switzerland, where Anne first truly experienced love without conditions or limits. There, we wandered through snow-covered mountains, strolled under trees, and along winding paths. The cold of the weather couldn't chill the warmth of the love we shared. We sat together, enjoying cozy dinners, exchanging smiles, not worrying about the future, not fearing others. For Anne, this holiday was not just a time of rest, but a new beginning. She understood that love was not a substitute for money or fame. She realized that true love is when you love someone for who they are, not for what they have. And in the end, she found that in me, someone who loved her not for what she brought, but for who she is. I didn't love her because of her family or because of money. I loved her for her character, for her heart, for everything she brought to this world. I loved her for her intelligence, her strength, and even the moments when she was vulnerable, because I knew those were the things that made her the person I loved. And then also understood that this love was not a transaction, not something that could be bought. They think you're not worthy of me, Anne said, her gaze deep. But I'm not worthy of you if I don't love you with all my heart. Her words made my heart swell. She understood the essence of love. Love is not about perfection, it's about sacrifice and trust. I need nothing more than having Anne by my side, and I know she feels the same. As we sat together under the Swiss sky, I saw that life is a beautiful gift. Although we had faced many challenges, in the end, we had found the most precious thing, true love. A love not bound by money, family, or any expectations. A love shared between two people, built on sacrifice, trust, and companionship. And that is the lesson I learned throughout this journey. Love is not measured by wealth, but by sacrifice and trust. True love is when you love someone for who they are, not for what they have. And I believe that with Anne, I have found the love I always dreamed of.